Welcome to September 20th of 2023. For those who don't know, you are on Lunch Conversations of Randy and Teddy. Hope we have some of our audience on Facebook and LinkedIn hanging with us today. For those who don't know, I'm Teddy, and the dude with the shiny heads, my co-host, Mr. Randy Wood. And our special guest today is Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughan. We'll introduce her to you momentarily as Randy and I diligently get our ducks in a row here and get this animal moving. For those that don't know me, I work for a company called Burriss Consulting. We're LinkedIn strategists, trainers, and coaches, helping business professionals in all kinds of roles, including government, healthcare, and medical, and business to business, who want to use LinkedIn as a business tool in their role or their career search. And I do one-on-one coaching, corporate training. I do seminars, webinars. Heck, Randy's told people before he's seen me standing on a street corner proselytizing about the power of using LinkedIn as a business tool. Randy, did we get everything going, buddy?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're in good shape. So, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, based out of Winston-Salem, and have clients across the country. And if you or maybe somebody you know that's got a degree, maybe in a salaried role, leadership position, that kind of thing, and trying to figure out their next step, reach out to me. We'll get you on the calendar. Happy to try to help. And again, services are free, so find me on LinkedIn where we'll get after it. By the way, every Wednesday, Teddy and I get together. What are we on, a show about 180 or we last longer
on Earth? I think we're at like 180 right now on Earth, but we're doing shows in other planets, but we're not allowed to talk about
that.
Are,
huh?
Yeah,
we've lasted longer than a lot of marriages. So there you go, Teddy. So how about that? But every Wednesday we get together and we learn stuff, have a little fun along the way. Been doing it now for about 3+ years. And so today is no exception. By the way, if you have comments or questions for Mayor Vaughan, put those in the chat area, and I'll keep an eye on that and work those in where appropriate. But we have a lot of stuff to cover. So Teddy, I'll throw it back to you to get things started and we'll take it away.
Good stuff, man. So.
Yep.
I'm cleaning up my mess from getting the show started. It started. Hey, so again, our special guest today is Mayor Nancy Vaughan, Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughan, longtime Greensboro civic leader, dedicated to her town. My words, not Nancy's words, her town. And I've been paying attention to Nancy Vaughan for years, I think 11 years now. And what she's doing in Greensboro, and love seeing what's happening. Let Mayor Vaughan introduce herself to you rather than me ramble of my thoughts. Nancy, would you?
Hey, Teddy, thank you. As Teddy and Randy said, I'm Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughan. I am in my 11th year as mayor. Prior to that, I served 2 terms, so that would be 4 years as a District 4 representative and then 4 years as an at-large representative. So I've been around for a while. I did retire for a short while after I had a baby, and then when she became a mature 8-year-old, I threw my hat back in the ring. But I love this city. A lot of great things are going on, and that's where I am at this point.
Yeah. Well, Nancy, I always ask the why question. The guests that we have on here, they're knowledgeable, they're passionate about what they do, and you're no exception. So help us understand your why. What got you started in the public service area, and what keeps you driving on that note?
You know, what got me started and what keeps me here are probably 2 very different things. But,
okay.
You know, what got me started was probably pretty typical that you hear of a lot of local elected officials. I will say that I've had an interest in politics my whole entire life. I can remember being in 1st grade and running around with a pad asking people who they were going to vote for as president. So I've always had an interest, and I was a political science major in school, but you know, life kind of gets in the way, and I moved here, and right when I moved to Greensboro, the community that I lived in, Jefferson Gardens, was directly in the path of Painter Boulevard, which is now our urban loop. And so there was a group of us that, fought it coming through the neighborhood and through that part of Greensboro. Ultimately, it did get pushed out much further, which made a lot of sense. After that, there was a school redistricting issue that came up. And then shortly after that, there was a rezoning sign in my right at the border of my neighbor's yard. And we lived right on the border of the city of Greensboro and unincorporated Guilford County. And that rezoning was to change that 1,000 acres to a very high density development, which at that point, New Garden Road, for those of you who are familiar with Greensboro, was a nice bucolic road. Now it's something quite different. So it was a rezoning fight that got me involved.
And keeps you going now. I guess there's a lot to talk about. Greensboro, that's the third largest city in the state.
Is.
You got Charlotte and Raleigh, and then Greensboro, and then I guess
Yes.
Winston would be the next. So
Durham.
Is Durham the next? We've had Mayor Joines was on. It's been 6-8 months ago, but very interesting to understand kind of what goes on behind the scenes. We've got a lot to unpack today, but yeah. So let's
I really enjoy working with Alan. I'm sure that he mentioned that Guilford County and Forsyth County, we have a very cooperative relationship. We, if there's an economic development industry who's coming in and looking at the area, we don't bid against each other. We truly pick out what is the best site, and then we, cheerlead to get that company to locate in our region.
In the triad.
Yes.
Yeah. Nancy, I moved down here in 1997, and I'll never forget hearing from people in Winston or Greensboro that, oh, I can't go to Greensboro. Oh, I can't go to Winston. That's all the way over there. And as I told you, in context to Chanley White, I drove across that barrier every day, every Thursday for almost 11 years. And I don't think that is such a big issue as much today as it was way back then. Because, we had, 421, our business 40 was simpler, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yes, I do think you see a lot more traffic going in between the two cities, not only for employment, but for entertainment and sports. And it's a really nice relationship that we have.
Yeah, I agree. It's from my perspective. So, and I like the fact that you retired from as a civil servant to go create and produce what you refer to as a very mature 8-year-old.
Yes. So now she's a senior at UNC, and so this is a big year, and she also is looking. So she's graduating with a political science degree, and we'll see what she does next year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you have previous generations to you in the family who were in politics or government services?
Oh, no.
So you're the rebel.
I was, and I'm actually the quiet one of the family.
Oh, Lordy.
So yes, quiet, the introvert. So when I told my family that I was going to do this, my parents, they thought I was crazy. They couldn't believe it. And, they turned out to be my biggest cheerleaders.
Good. That's good stuff. That's good. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about that whole thing that we call ECDAV, economic growth in Greensboro. There's a lot going on. And that we can publicly see, and I mean, HondaJet, Boom Supersonic, Toyota, Pro Kidney, Top Golf, and Trader Joe's, and talk a little bit about what's going on there and how that you can share with us, please.
So we just had a groundbreaking on Friday for a company called Marshall USA, and they are an aeronautics company that started in Cambridge, England, in Great Britain. And they decided to expand into the US, and they said that they started with 100 sites, and then they narrowed it down to 3. And ultimately, we were the ones who were able to bring them to the PTIA airport. It's really interesting because years ago, they built what they called was the droopy nose for the Concorde. And lo and behold, decades later, they are going to be out on the same airport where Boom Supersonic is. So that is just a nice way to complement each other. You know, our airport, I'm very proud of, and Alan might have said the same thing, because this truly is a regional airport. It's not a Greensboro airport or a High Point airport. It is regional. There are two great things about our airport, I believe. And one is that more freight is shipped out of Greensboro than any other airport in North Carolina, and that includes Raleigh and Charlotte. But more importantly, we have more back of the house jobs. What I mean is non-airline related jobs, but the Boom, Marshall, Honda Jet, the expansion of Honda Jet, HACO, then all other 71 airports in North Carolina combined.
Yeah.
Which is, that is a huge figure, because those are extremely well-paying jobs.
Yeah.
Remember, Teddy, we had Kevin Baker on
Oh yeah.
say a couple months ago, and he
chat.
talked about how it serves the region, and just all of the jobs that are, I won't call it spun off, but that are tied to the authority are there, and just it's huge. And you know, you kind of scratch your head after the conversation. I don't know about you, Teddy, but it's like, holy cow, I had no idea all that went on there.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
There's a lot going on.
Here's another thought that just came to mind as you talked about the groundbreaking with Marshall, Nancy, and that is, do you have a room full of golden groundbreaking shovels?
No, I don't. They usually take them back, but no, I don't. And yes.
I actually have a few. I have the Haynes Brands groundbreaking shovel, dude.
You did. Where'd you steal that, Teddy?
I don't know who I beat upside the head to get that. No, I was involved in that in a very little way. So,
okay.
Yeah. So this is, and I love it, Nancy, watching what's going on. And did you say Top Golf has committed, or they're looking at it?
They have committed. There is an area close. They want to be on a major thoroughfare. So there's an area right off of 40 where they have picked the site, and construction has already started. Cool.
Randy, take note. Sponsor idea.
I got it. I got to ask you a quick question too, and that deals with, we always hear, you know, tax incentives and how do we attract, and I know that you don't necessarily compete so much with, let's say, Winston and High Point, for example. So how do you attract the businesses? What if you can point to a couple things that says, hey, you know, why did these guys come to this area? I mean, Top Golf is not, let's say, it is not tied into the aerospace.
Correct.
You know, so how do you land the non-aerospace, the non-air traffic kind of businesses?
So, you know, Top Golf, they can really go anywhere they want.
Sure.
And site selectors actually look for certain companies in an area because it shows that it's vibrant. And Top Golf is one of those. But that was what I call an organic growth. It didn't come in through the state economic development portal, and it didn't come through the chamber. It just identified Greensboro as the place they wanted to be. When it comes to larger employers, it usually will come in through the state or through the chamber. And at that point, what we will do is the Greensboro Chamber and the High Point Chamber take the people around and show them Guilford County. And again, we come up with one location that has what they're asking for, and then that's what we put forward. You know, we had a company move to Winston because we didn't have the type of property that they were looking for. And then a few months later, we had a company from Winston expand into Guilford County, which is the Pro Kidney.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do try to support each other.
Yeah. Again, yeah. I like the fact, I love seeing these big organizations, you know, come say hi to us and join us. But you and I chatted about this a little bit a while back, Nancy, that we can't ignore the small businesses around the triad. You know,
No.
Talk a little bit about how you and your office help the small businesses in the triad, Greensboro.
Well, you know, probably one of the most important things we can do for small, medium, and large businesses to make sure that there's a quality of life here, that people want to live in the city of Greensboro and Guilford County. And so that involves things like transportation and housing. We do work closely with the Chamber and the Community Foundation. They have a number of programs that help prop up startup businesses, which are very important. We want those homegrown businesses. When you look at a company like RF Micro Device, that was homegrown, and now they're a global company. The Fresh Market, where now that I think they've got close to 200 stores, if not more, and that started in Greensboro. So you never know when a small company is going to be the next big thing. I think we learned our lesson with tobacco, textiles, and furniture. And, when we ended up in the vortex of the giant sucking sound that Ross Perot talked about way back when, we really had to reinvent ourselves. And so we're not just focused on like the airport, but we're focused on life science and other areas that we want to make sure that we have a broad employment base and that we are a great place for small and medium-sized businesses.
Something at Winston Innovation Quarter, and they've got some things going on. Teddy, is that whistling sound? Is that just in my head? I don't know. Nancy, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I don't hear whistling.
Okay. Yeah. I did, but I don't now. Yeah. And so Innovation Quarter, downtown Winston is the old factories and repurposing, and whether it's apartments, condos, businesses, that kind of thing. So Winston's made that pivot. And you mentioned about that, how, you don't put your eggs in the basket of what I'll call legacy industries that have been around that are maybe not as strong as they used to be. Can you speak to what I'll call the Greensboro equivalent of that renovation of the downtown? And I know the ballpark's a great example of that. But what are some other examples you can point to in Greensboro to say, hey, listen, we've pivoted and you need to check this stuff out?
So I think I have two answers to that. One, talking about Winston and the way the Innovation Corridor and the way that they have remodeled all those old buildings. We have a lot of old mills here in the city. I think North Carolina has over 400 abandoned mills as a state. Really? And so one of Cone Mills, this is where they started. And one of those mills, the Revolution Mill, which is well over 1 million square feet, there was a company that came in and redid it, and it's got restaurants and small businesses. It has a number of apartments, event spaces, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And we're extending the greenway so people can walk literally from Revolution Mill to to downtown Greensboro. The ballpark certainly was a catalyst. We had expected to see a lot of things grow up around the ballpark, but that happened right around 2008. So that wasn't a great time for expansion. We're finally seeing that expansion now, but we had to hold on for it. The Stephen Tanger Performing Arts Center, that is absolutely amazing for our community. We are starting our third Broadway series this week. I think it starts today with the musical Chicago. Wow. Season 1, we had over 17,000 Broadway package subscribers. It held the record in the United States for the largest opening when it came to Broadway. We've kept that pretty much steady. We're in the third season. We are only 140 Broadway packages down from that first year, which is considered to be a really good sign. Usually there's a big drop off after people come in the building and they get their fill. I will say that the Coliseum crew, they do a great job of booking all sorts of different events into the Tanger Center. I remember driving by one day and I saw the marquee, and it was for The Price is Right. And I called up Matt Brown and I'm like, The Price is Right in the Tanger Center, really? And he was like, sold out in 12 hours. I'm like, book it again. And so, there is just a wide variety of things. The Bryan lecture series, the Guilford College lecture series had Sully Sullenberger in last week talking about his career and that great landing that he made in the Hudson River. So there are just all different types of events in the Tanger Center, and that has really helped economic development downtown with new restaurants, new stores, and it is a destination place across the state, really.
Yeah, and it helps from a tax-based standpoint as well versus a bunch of empty buildings. So
Absolutely.
So you've got that as well.
Yeah.
By the way, if you have comments or questions for Nancy, put them in the chat. We'll try to work them in. I see some comments, but I'm not necessarily sure we need to work them all in right at this time, Teddy. So,
all right. So,
but if you have them, we can do it.
Yeah. Nancy, you just touched on another thing I wanted to ask you about, and you referred to it a little bit earlier. What keeps you committed to showing up every year as the mayor? And so I'm letting you answer that, even though I heard you say some points that I think are highly relevant to that.
So let me just say, I think being mayor of Greensboro is the best job in Greensboro. I enjoy it. It's very challenging. It's rewarding. I like seeing people out on the street. My daughter says we have the 50-foot rule, that we can't walk more than 50 feet without somebody stopping us. Usually people are very pleasant, whether they disagree with me or agree with me. We have great conversations. I get a lot of great ideas from talking to people about what they would like to see in their communities. And so every day is extremely different. I don't know that there are many jobs like that where, you wake up in the morning and you never know what's going to happen during the day. In that perspective, I think it is a great job. And now to be able to see the benefits of over a decade of laying the groundwork for these announcements, we really played the long game. And we invested a lot of money in infrastructure, in our roadways, in water and sewer. They're not necessarily sexy. You don't see those things. You don't think a lot about water and sewer. You just know you want to have it. But we had to have it in a large enough amount to support these new businesses.
Yeah, I never thought about that before, Nancy. Our water and sewer and electric, not all sexy, but daggone it, we want them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also when it comes to growth too. I mean, if businesses don't have access to that readily, or the neighborhoods don't have access to that, then you're kind of hamstrung. So you've got to
absolutely
build it, then they'll come kind of mentality applies, I would think.
And I'd also add the other side of that, Randy, is that if enterprises are looking at cities and they read the slightest press that Greensboro is having a problem with their septic system or their water system, that's just going to move that thought of going to this city off to the side, because they don't want to move into any city or any region that is dealing with challenges that they expect to be commodities.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about that a little bit then. I got two questions I want to ask you. One is the opposite of the other. First is, what's been the biggest challenge for you in your role?
I would say the challenges have changed.
Yeah.
And right now, our biggest challenge is public safety. And, the commitment to making Greensboro the safest city. We are having a very difficult year. Many cities across the country are having the same issues that we are. Trying to attract and retain good police officers is very difficult. In our last budget, we made a significant increase in police salaries, benefits, different sign-on things that they would get, not necessarily a sign-on bonus, but more money if they worked a night shift, more money if they spoke another language, more money if they are a veteran, more money if they're coming in from another area. So we have a really, really good package. We graduated a class Monday that only had 17 officers in it. Our next class appears to be full. and there's already an interest in the class after that. But we're not going to police our way out of this. It's going to take more than police. It's really a culture shift, and it's working with our school system, our religious groups, community groups, because they know the type of safety that they want to see, the level of police officers they want to see. And so it is something that many, Winston is having the same issues that we are. High Point is, I would say, so is Raleigh and Charlotte and every other big city. And it's something that we are committed to doing better.
Yeah. Will Penn, chief of police here in Winston, was our guest. See, Nancy, you're in good company. We get some of these guys in here that can really speak to the big picture. And in his case, a lot of the same things you're saying, he's saying. You can't police your way out of it. And if you smother certain communities that are high crime, then you create this kind of thing. And that's counterproductive. So it's a balancing, and to his point, I think yours, I mean, you in effect could put a cop in every household, but unless you can start with the accountability issue, the family issue, the moral issue, I mean, somebody's going to do you harm, they're going to do you harm. And so it's
and that's why it's important for us to work with our school system to make sure that when kids get into school, that they have the tools they need and that they can have the vision for what a future could look like for them with a good job. We also have to make sure that we have the jobs for people who are skilled. The housing, housing is another issue that really has come to the forefront in the last 10 years. And I'm part of the North Carolina Metro Mayors, so that is of the larger cities, and we all have a housing crisis, and it's not just affordable housing. It's not for necessarily just for people who are working poor, who deserve to live in safe, affordable housing. It is across the board that we need to have houses at all different price points.
Yeah, Teddy, there is a comment in here. I might want to work it in from Todd.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, he's talking about how impressed he is with the highway growth throughout the triad. And again, you've got to be able to get from home to work in a reasonable amount of time. But he also wonders too, is there such a thing as too much growth? And how do you manage the rate of growth, or how do you manage that development?
Well, let me say something about the roadway systems, which we do have a really good roadway system. We are blessed to have a good North Carolina Department of Transportation. Two of the last three secretaries have actually come from Guilford County, which right now it's Mike Fox. And so he is a big advocate for our state and for our region. North Carolina is only second to Texas when it comes to the number of interstate miles. If you think about that, that is a lot of mileage. Could we overdevelop? I'm sure that is a possibility. Right now, people might be questioning that because we are having growing pains right now. As these announcements are coming in, we are trying to get more houses up. We are trying to get better mass transportation. So we, in the next few years may not be easy for us because we will be in the middle of growing pains, but eventually it's all going to work out.
Yeah, and then not only the growing pains from what you just said, but also where do you find the butts to put in seats? I mean, the whole number of employees out there, the available talent pool. How do you attract them? Yeah.
One thing that I will say is when you've got a company like Toyota, who can go anywhere, Boom, who could go anywhere, Marshall, who looked at 100 places before deciding on Greensboro, they're going to make sure that we have the talent pipeline. Nobody says trust me anymore, and the other person says, okay, I believe you. It's trust but verify. So they have to feel confident that we're going to be able to upskill the people in our community to fill these jobs. Publix opened up not too long ago. They're going to be hiring up to 2,000 people. So there are a lot of employment opportunities right now, and we are working closely with the Guilford County school system, so that they can start some training at a very young age. And then, of course, GTCC and Randolph Community College, they are offering customized training for some of these employers, and these students will be paid while they train.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Goodwill. Goodwill,
Yes.
Central North Carolina Goodwill. That's
You're right.
our cohort over in the Greensboro area. So Teddy,
Yes.
about halfway through.
Yeah. Let me take the bomb of the show, and then we'll move over to the other side of that question. So, hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughan. Conversations about what's going on in Greensboro, what's it look like in the future. And so far, we've had some really good comments from Nancy, some good engagement from our audience. We appreciate our audience. And we appreciate all of you who show up every week to watch us, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, our podcast. If you haven't found our podcast, go hunt that down. It's a fast growing medium that Randy and I are superstars in my own mind. So is that okay, Randy? You good with that?
Let's
Too late. I said it, right?
Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
By the way, Nancy, Police Chief John Thompson is on my list to reach out to. I may ask your office to help me have a conversation with him.
Sure, he's really great. He's been in Greensboro for a long time. He's very committed, and he has come up with some wonderful ideas. And one of them is the civilian traffic investigators, which was a bill that we put forth last year. It was House Bill 140, and it made it unanimously through the House and then get bogged down in the Senate because they thought it was a defund the police
I remember
bill.
that. Yeah.
And so, the police chief, was quick to say, hey, no, this is my bill. We want it. Yeah. And we got others on board. It didn't make it through last term. This term, it made through and was not only just for Greensboro, it was statewide. Cool. So we are very excited about that. But Chief Thompson comes up with ideas, especially while we're short police officers. How can we use non-sworn people to fill some of those duties?
Yeah. Explain what that is. We said civilian help, because a lot of people may not be familiar with that. What does that look like?
Well, so everybody's familiar driving by a traffic accident and seeing 3 police cars there, directing traffic and doing other things. And if there is a traffic accident that does not have people damage, if it's only car damage, then they can bring in these civilian traffic investigators. And they can do the things like write up the reports, direct traffic, and our police officers can be deployed to more higher priority calls.
Yeah.
And it was estimated that in the first year, we will probably save about 17,000 man hours.
Yeah, which adds up to big dollars. And more important, focus on other things.
Exactly.
Not just the dollars, but the dollars are important. So,
right.
All right. So that's a good segue into, so what's been the greatest achievement, the thing that you look at and you go, oh my God, I'm so happy that we did that. What is that one thing, Nancy?
One thing. Wow, that's tough.
I know you're not going to want to say one thing.
Then I'm going to have to go with infrastructure.
Okay.
That's one category. Yeah. And like I said earlier, infrastructure isn't sexy, but without what we've done for the last 10, 15 years, none of these announcements would be happening. And then if you were to ask for like one standalone project, I would have to say it's the Tanger Center.
Yeah. I remember you and I chatted about that. Yeah, I agree. So, the stuff that makes it, the foundation is, you don't have to, you need to keep working on it. You need to keep, growing it, maintain it. But if you had the right foundation, it's easy to do that and then go work on the other things. Yeah, good stuff. So, next big projects. And you talked about, the public safety a little bit. You touched on affordable housing, and maybe those are, what are the next big projects that you're excited about and committed to for Greensboro?
Well, housing and homelessness is kind of top of the mind right now. And we know that, shelters aren't the answer, that we need to look at long-term housing and so we're looking at permanent supportive housing. And what that does is people who have extra challenges in their life, whether it's physical challenges or mental health or addiction or lack of education, that they can live in an area where we bring all of the wraparound services in. And anything from medical to psychological to resume building to you name it, those services come to them. We're looking at 3 places right now for permanent supportive housing, which we hope will get lots of people off the streets. And then, of course, just make sure that we have enough housing for our community.
Yeah, yeah. Are many houses, is that the right term? What, tiny homes. Are tiny homes a part of that idea?
I think they can be part of the long-term strategy. We do have a small tiny home village that was done by a nonprofit,
Yeah, I remember that.
Tiny Houses of Greensboro. One thing that we're doing, which is really not what you're talking about, is that last year we had some pallet houses. They're very, very small, but they were for the winter. They got about 60. There were 30 of them. You get a roommate, so there are about 60 people. We were the first city, the first anything in North Carolina to do these pallet homes, and we've had quite a number of cities and towns come in to look at them. It really is emergency housing. It is not a long-term solution, but it is a good way to make sure that people are at least sheltered.
Yeah, yeah. And to bring the services to them in a central place rather than have a bunch of vans running around the city trying to go find people who need the help that the city wants to provide.
Sure.
I'm going to ask, I work for Goodwill of Northwest North Carolina. So I work for a nonprofit, and nonprofits serve a lot of different missions.
Yes.
Whether it's putting coats on kids or housing or food or medical and what have you. And I just wonder, again, I'm more in the Clemens, Winston area and not so much Greensboro. Help us understand the relationship between, let's say, the area nonprofits and what I'll call government funded services, and how you guys hopefully can work together. And, the old thing of who gets the credit sometimes gets things gummed up in the works. But let's talk about how that relationship is between what I'll call government and the nonprofits to serve the communities that really do need those services.
I think Goodwill is a great example. The job training program that Goodwill has is really strong and helps upskill people who really have no skills and get them into some good paying entry-level jobs. And I know that the Greensboro Goodwill has partnered with the Interactive Resource Center, which is the IRC is a day center for unsheltered people. And so they will bring people to Goodwill to help with clothing and other things that they may need, especially to help with people being dressed well for an interview. And then if they get the job, to help them build that starter wardrobe. We rely on our nonprofits pretty heavily. They pick up the slack that we can't. Sometimes people look to the city and expect us to do everything, and it's not really in our purview to do these things. It might rest at the county. The county is really who looks after mental health, DSS, adult protective services. People look to us to do these things, so that when we can rely on our nonprofits, that is a huge, huge help. We talked about public safety earlier. We have the Family Justice Center. There's one here in Greensboro and one in High Point. And it is an amazing organization for families that are in trauma, that there is abuse in the family, and it helps people get the legal help they need and the independence that they need. No one who has ever gone through the Family Justice Center has ever been a homicide victim. And I will say that domestic violence is on the rise. It's been on the rise for the last 3 years. I was at an event last week where the state of North Carolina has already passed the number of domestic homicides this year for all of last year. And there's still a ways to go in the winter. So to have a place like the Family Justice Center that we can direct people to. We do have police officers embedded over there to help the Family Justice Center, but they've got clinicians and other people who can help these families who are living in trauma.
Yeah.
So, Teddy, there's another comment I could work in here, and it deals with immigration. And you know, in Goodwill, I've engaged with numerous folks that have been who have immigrants here coming from Afghanistan, coming from places where just to survive a day without getting shot is incredible. To hear their stories, and they just want safety. They want a place to work. Now, their language and cultural barriers and some of that. Having said all that, I guess looking at immigration, and again, you know, we need workers. We need people to wait on our tables. We need folks in what I'll call the blue collar or the service industries, not to mention IT and other ones. So help us understand immigration and how you've leveraged that to help, I guess, address some of the manpower issues that you're running into.
So, you know, we are fortunate to have a rich immigrant and refugee population. There are over 100 different languages spoken in the Guilford County school system. I think that immigrants and refugees really bring a lot to the fabric of our community, different cultures. You know, the frustrating part, I think, for a lot of our immigrants are that they may have left the country they're in as doctors and teachers and other things, but they come here and they can't do those jobs, whether it's because they're not certified here in the country or that there is a language barrier. But making sure that, you know, nobody comes to the US because they were in a good place where they used to live. You know, they are leaving war-torn countries. They are leaving places where there are drug cartels. People don't just get up and decide to move their families or to come by themselves to another country without something really big motivating them. So it's, you know, they come here because they want a better life. And, you know, certainly we want to help put them in jobs that will help them see that through. You know, we had a terrible fire a few years back where a family lost 5 of their children. They were living in what was discovered to be substandard housing. And it was, you know, this was a family who came here from Uganda to live a better life. And, you know, the tragedy that unfolded here was probably worse than anything they ever could have imagined. I think that has put a spotlight on people coming in from different countries and what it is that we have to do to make sure that they have the tools to be successful here.
Yeah, language, culture, skills, a lot of that. Yeah, I run into that a lot. You mentioned about doctors. I've had a good number of them, and they can't even get a job in a convenience store. And
no,
it's just, you know, so frustrating because they were on top of the hill back there, and they come here and they're like, you know, I can't get this figured out. So right. Again, whether it's nonprofits, Goodwill, other agencies, I think it's critical that if they're going to mesh into society, that they get the skills and training to do that. Otherwise, they're going to live, you know,
sure,
a substandard life here, realistically.
And the other part of that as well, Randy and Nancy, is that, you know, I get it. The wrong people in our country shouldn't be here. But don't label immigrants and refugees as the wrong people, because there's a lot of immigrants, a lot of refugees who are the right people, and we're not just creating a better environment for them. They can help create a better community and be a part of the community. You know, Nancy, I raised 4 daughters, and Randy's heard this. The only thing I told my 4 daughters that I expected from them, only thing I expected them, was to be a contributing member of society. Have fun, enjoy life, do everything you want to do as long as you're a contributing member of society. And that applies to immigrants and refugees and, you know, people born in our cities every day. In Teddy's opinion. So cool. All right. I got time for destination city. Greensboro is becoming a destination city, and we've already talked about some of the reasons. Share a little bit more about
what does that mean, though? What does that mean?
What does that mean, and
what
why?
is that? Yeah.
A destination city is that people are coming here for a reason, and part of it is youth sports. You know, there are months that we will have 50,000 people coming to Greensboro, whether it's to be out at Bryant Park for sports, and it's not necessarily just youth. We had a Masters tournament out at Bryant Park in June that actually had some 70-year-olds playing in it. But in that month alone, that there were 30,000 athletes through our city, and they don't come alone. You know, they come with their families, they come with coaches, they come with friends. So that 30,000 is a much bigger number. People come here to see the Civil Rights Museum, the Greensboro Science Center. We have great places for people to visit. You know, years ago, you could go to the Science Center and, you know, maybe you would spend a couple hours there. But now you can actually spend the whole weekend there. There's an array of different things to do. But we have a very vibrant tourism industry here in the city of Greensboro, not to mention all of the events that go through the Coliseum. There are roughly 1,100 events at the Coliseum every year. With a number like that, you can tell that they have overlapping events, whether it's out at the Aquatic Center, in the arena, you know, wonderful concerts. This weekend, we're having professional bull riding for 3 days. I can't wait to
There you
see
go, Teddy.
in person.
Well, I want
to
see pictures, Nancy. I want to see pictures of you. I'm just saying, you know, bull riding.
No, I've aged out of that. You know, it's interesting. We were talking to one of the bull riders this morning, and they said that he was an old bull rider, and he was 31. So, yeah, so I've aged out of that. Yeah. But you know, there are all different events that come to the Coliseum. So we definitely are a destination city.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention the Tanger Center, which is a big as well. By the way, I'm going to one of the Greensboro Coliseum events. One of those 11. You said 1,100 events?
Yes.
I'm going to one of those events tonight.
And what is that?
It's the Abby Donnelly book signing event.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so. So I'll be in town tonight. So
that's great.
I'm with you, Nancy. I love Winston. Winston's my town, but I know that there's a lot of stuff that goes on across that barrier that I jokingly referred to, that I go see on a regular basis. I need to go see more, because you just hit me with the Greensboro Science Center is much bigger than it was when I went, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. I gotta go visit.
You know, and the Science Center is so good. You can enjoy it as an adult. Yeah. There are times I will just go by myself. The exhibits are wonderful to see the people having fun. And you know, one other thing, we are great when it comes to festivals. And you know, last weekend we hosted the North Carolina Folk Festival. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a 3-day event. I haven't heard what the final tally is on how many people, but you know, it's usually up around 100,000.
Cool, real cool. Yeah. So, Ed says he goes to a state wrestling tournament at the Coliseum. So Ed, you still wrestling, dude? I'm with you, man. I get it. So, all right.
You know, We had so at the Coliseum we had the we had the Ninja Championships, not the American Ninja like you see on TV. It's not that, but it is the same type of course. There were 4,500 athletes that came through for this Ninja Championship. And I didn't even know it was in town. I would have gone to, there are so many things going on, I can't keep it straight.
Yeah, I
to have 4,500 people for this championship, they definitely had their coaches and their family with them. And, you know, they're staying in our hotels and they're eating in our restaurants. Nobody's bringing a brown bag lunch with them.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah, good stuff. And I'm with cool stuff. Ed's a wrestling coach. So, all right,
great.
Nancy, we might have time to put this in here. I think we have time, right? Do we have time, Randy?
We have, and I've got even more stuff we can ask if there's time for that too. So.
All right. So your biggest surprises. Let's start with the biggest surprise that you're like, oh my golly, this is not a good thing. One of your biggest surprises as mayor that like you did not see coming.
So one awful moment would be when the tornado came through East Greensboro about 5 years ago. It was a Sunday evening, and I got a call from the city manager at the time saying we've had a tornado touchdown and we need you to declare a state of emergency. There are only two things I can do without anybody else's permission, and one is to declare a state of emergency, and the other one is to do a proclamation, you know, for like hot dog week. But so he said, I need you to declare a state of emergency, and I signed it, and then I met the police chief at the time, and we drove around. It was getting dark, and it was hard to even really see what had happened because there was no electricity.
Yeah.
And then going back at daybreak and seeing the devastation, it was almost like being on a movie set. That it was like something I had never seen before. And then the fickleness of a tornado, how one house would be completely devastated and the house next to it is untouched.
Yeah.
Of course, we lost 4 schools in that tornado. There are still children who are being bused to other schools because those have not come back online. It was something I hope I never see again. We were very fortunate. We only lost 1 person, and the devastation was amazing. We hardly had any injuries. I don't want to downplay the death of that 1 person, but as a whole, we were extremely, extremely fortunate, but we're still rebuilding.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, all right, go to the other side, Nancy. Really like, oh my golly, this is so freaking fantastic. You did not see this coming.
You know, I've had a lot of fun things happen. The one we're having some fun with right now is professional bull riding. I never thought that I would know anything about bull riding, and you know, to get to know some of the cowboys, and it is a team owned by Richard Childress.
Yep.
I didn't know much about NASCAR, and learning about NASCAR. Austin Dillon is one of the coaches, and he is a Daytona 500 champion. So it has just been, I mean, you know, 3 months ago, I never would have saw this coming. And, you know, now we're having a lot of fun with it. And tomorrow, Mayor Greensboro is going to be in town.
Mayor Greensboro.
I'm sure that that's going to leave me for lots of memes and other things. But yes, there is a Greensboro.
Yeah, we just got to hope that Mayor Greensboro represents appropriately.
Yes.
Hey, Teddy, if we've got a minute or two, I'd like to ask folks, you know, take out whether it's a crystal ball or a magic wand, either your pick or both, and whatever. Just but in a couple of minutes or so, what do you hope to see in the future, and what are some things you realistically think you're going to see? And take either way you want. Hopeful or what you really think the groundwork points to and says, I think we're going to be here.
So as I said earlier, I think one of the biggest concerns that we have as a community is public safety. And I believe that we have the right people in place to address gun violence and acquaintance violence. So I hope that we're going to see a decrease in those numbers every single month, every single year. Other than that, I would say, as I said earlier, we have growing pains right now. I want to see us to be able to leverage these investments to make the people of Greensboro and Guilford County the recipients of the jobs that we brought into this community.
Yeah, leverage the investments we have made so far.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Randy, anything you got on?
No, but I got another quick one for you. So,
Okay,
we talk about apathy, this people are, they see government as, I don't want to get involved. And what advice would you have for somebody who might even because you're a poli-sci person from years back, what advice might you have for somebody who might be thinking, yeah, is this something I ought to try or not? What tips might you have for them real quick?
I think that you have to feel it. They talk about the fire in the belly. You can't fake this. If you are not an authentic person, people feel that. So if you want a life in public service, because it truly is public service, it's got to be your passion. And if it's not, find something else.
Find something else. So yeah. And what is it? Abe Lincoln, what did he run for office on how many times and didn't get elected, but he kept swinging, right? Was it Abe Lincoln?
I couldn't tell you.
I think so. Yeah. I think he lost the first 4 or 5 elections that he ran in and stayed with it. And next thing you know, he's president. So
it's either Abe Lincoln or Randy Wooden.
One of
those two. So, Nancy,
well, there's that.
Thank you very much for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
and I want to thank your listeners for listening to me for the last hour. And if they have any questions, if they want any follow-ups, please, you can reach me through my office. It's an easy Google. You just put, Mayor Vaughan, Greensboro. It'll bring up my email. Yeah. I'm probably one of the easiest people to get in touch with. So if anybody wants to continue this conversation, I'd be happy to do so.
Great. Thank you very much, Nancy. So
thank you. Appreciate it. That's good.
Cool. And I am going to reach out to your office and ask for help to get a hold of Chief Thompson. I think we can make that happen. Yeah. So, Randy, anything else?
Well, no, just a lot of thank yous in the chat area. Again, it's always good to get a perspective, not just in the Winston area, but in other cities. And what I'm hearing is you're all in the same boat. You're all dealing with the housing issues, the safety issues, the mental health issues, economic growth. I mean, there's some great stuff going on, and it's an ongoing challenge. And it's just
attracting
something
talent.
Keep attracting talent. So I think we're all in the same boat. And one thing I really like, you mentioned, and I think Alan Joins mentioned this too with Winston, is that you're not fighting each other.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it'd be nice if it were in Winston versus Greensboro, whatever. But at the end of the day, you do what's best for the region.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're not cutting each other's throats. So that's a good thing. And I don't know that that's the case in all metropolitan areas across the country, but at least here it is. So that's good to hear. Thanks again, Nancy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ella.
Nancy, thank you very much. You take care. We'll say hi another day to our audience. Love you guys. Thanks for showing up. And we next week, let's see, what do we got coming up next week, Randy?
Hey, you guess whose birthday it is next Wednesday?
Oh, yeah. Some old guy.
It'd be me.
Oh, happy birthday.
39 is a great age. I think I'll just stay with it. So,
so let's move on to something more realistic, Randy.
So Teddy, even though I'm off, and I don't know if there's any extra pay in it. You know what I mean, my friend? Are you gonna pay me double time and a half or whatever?
HR, Randy. Call HR. Don't hit me with that stuff.
That's an old joke, by the way, Nancy. I don't work for Teddy. We just kid about this stuff.
Yeah.
Tanya Rivera is going to be on.
Tanya Rivera.
Tanya Rivera. She'll be on. You want to understand what life is like as a news reporter and an anchor and all of that stuff. What goes on behind the scenes? You're going to find out next week, and she'll
I need to make sure I'm saying this right. WFMY News 2.
Yes.
If I said that wrong, I'm in big freaking doo-doo. I'm just telling you that right now. So yeah,
Don't do that.
Nancy, I'm sure you've run into her.
Yeah, she and I do a segment once a month.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yes.
So anyway, Tanya Rivera will be on here next week. Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, Wednesday, 11:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nancy, again, thank you very much. Randy, stay out of trouble. And to our audience, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.